Welcome to Lesson 12 of Humanities 1101 at West Georgia Technical College. In this lesson, we will have a brief overview of the arts and culture of Asia. Asia, for the purposes of this lesson, specifically references China and India, although in reality there is so much more to Asia. Particularly in the modern world, there is a great deal of art and culture coming from Japan, such as manga and anime. And Korea has given the world K-pop, and historically, Asia would not only include many smaller and lesser known countries, such as areas like Tajikistan and Azerbaijan, but also parts of Turkey and Asia Minor. Covering all of these countries in a single lesson would be impossible, so we will just touch upon the highlights from two of the major Asian nations and concentrate primarily on philosophy and education, literature and folklore, and the intersection of art and architecture. According to the Department of Asian Languages and Cultures at Northwestern University, Asian humanities are the gateway to grasping radically different systems of literary traditions, cultural expressions, and social perspectives. Second perhaps only to Greece, Asia is well known for its philosophers, who are often also, but not always, religious leaders. Figures such as the Buddha, Confucius, Gandhi, and Sun Tzu are well-known names. Buddha and Confucius became religious figures, as much associated with spiritualism as with philosophy, while Gandhi and Sun Tzu remain entirely in the realm of diabolically opposed philosophies. While the ancient Chinese philosopher Sun Tzu abhorred war, he wrote what is most what is considered to be the most important work on the philosophy of warfare in the history of the world. Sun Tzu believed that war was a necessary evil, and that no matter how ruthless it was, the best way to win a war was as brutally and quickly as possible. More than 2,200 years ago, he was teaching military leaders the art of tactics like psychological warfare meant to demoralize a resistant population. Contrast this with the philosophy of Mahatma Gandhi, who lived in the late 1800s and early 1900s during the collapse of the British Empire in India. Gandhi argued, "We may never be strong enough to be entirely nonviolent in thought, word, and deed, but we must keep nonviolence as our goal and make strong progress towards it." Confucianism is also more a philosophy than it is a religion, because it does not recognize any deity, but it is often practiced in a way that makes it akin to a religion more than simply just being a creed. It is not altogether unlike Greek philosophy, with an emphasis on moral virtue through its primary tenet called Ren, which is humanity or benevolence, or what we might call common decency or goodness. In contrast, Buddhism is a religion which has a strong emphasis on humanity, as many religions do, but with an emphasis as well on spiritual enlightenment as opposed to a heaven, although Buddhism has three separate deities. Although Buddhism originated in India, it is mostly practiced in other areas of Asia, including China, while Hinduism is the primary religion of India today. Hinduism emphasizes the idea of rebirth until a soul can be perfected through enlightenment. But unlike some other religions, in addition to the ideas of leading a good life and seeking enlightenment, it also encourages the pursuit of material success and pleasure. In fact, our modern word, karma, is one of the basic principles of Hinduism. But to those who practice Hinduism, karma is not the same as it is to much of the Western world. In the West, We view karma as what goes around comes around, but it is perhaps more akin to Newton's third law. To every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. The primary religious text of Hinduism is the Rig Veda. India is also the site of the world's oldest university, called Nalanda University. While it is true that it is not the world's oldest continuously running and operational university, the first known university in the world was founded in India during the 5th century. It was lost for 800 years before being rediscovered. The folklore and literature of Asia is rich and dynamic. Some of it has had a worldwide impact. Most students would be familiar with the Disney film Mulan, which originates from the ancient Chinese ballad, The Legend of Hua Mulan. Unlike the animated Disney film, the ballad doesn't focus on romance, and unlike the live action Disney film, it doesn't focus on a female antagonist, but rather simply on the heroic deeds of a daughter who loved her father. Given that historically in China, a baby could be killed just because she was a girl who couldn't provide for her parents in their old age, and women did not have the freedoms or status of men, the Ballad of Hua Mulan is incredible not only in that it is a gripping, inspiring story, but that it so captured the imagination of a nation that it has endured to the modern age. Another wonderful tale, however, that is far less known is the myth of the cowherd and the weaver girl. It is the original tale of star-crossed lovers, destined to be separated for eternity, though obviously much older than tales like Romeo and Juliet. It has a similar resonance and an enduring legacy of its own. That despite the wildly different culture of Asia and China specifically, that there are elements of the human experience, separation, longing, devotion, and life changing, world ending passion and love, which are universal. Sometimes Western literature and Asian arts come together in fascinating and unpredictable ways. This is evidenced in films like the Bollywood version of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, called Bride and Prejudice. It is incredible how well a tale of daughters and love from 18th century England is able to be placed directly into modern India. Again, a testament to the commonality of the human experience. Finally, art and architecture come together in beautiful ways in Asia. One of the most instantly recognizable examples is the Great Wall of China, which spans 13,000 miles, over 5,000 of that having been built during the Ming Dynasty period, which occurred during the same time frame as the late Dark Ages and Renaissance were occurring in Europe. It is both a work of architecture and a work of art. Other notable examples of art in China would include the Terracotta Army, an army of soldiers built of the same material as is still used in pottery today, intended to guard China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, in the afterlife. Other examples would include the priceless ceramics, especially vases, which emerged primarily from the Ming Dynasty. This is a beautiful example of a Ming Dynasty vase which sold at auction in 2016 for $20 million. In terms of architecture, other impressive examples with widely differing styles would include the Taj Mahal, built in 1631 India, and the Hall of Supreme Harmony, which in its current form was rebuilt about the same time as the Taj Mahal, but in Beijing, China. There are so many other elements of Asian humanities that we could cover, many of which have had a global impact both in the past as well as in the present. The influence of Asia on Western humanities may have begun with the Silk Road and the importation of fabrics such as silk and the popularization of contemporary staples such as porcelain and china and tea and many of the spices we take for granted today. But it did not end there. Music, religion, philosophy, art, and architecture have been influenced for centuries to the degree that all one needs to do is shop at a TJ Maxx to find statues of the Buddha or other spiritualistic elements from the religions of Asia, or read a self help book for overcoming anxiety or finding purpose to see pieces of philosophies and religions from Asia. Even our physical exercise is impacted through the practice of various forms of yoga, which originated in India, and Tai Chi, which originated in China. It is impossible to quantify or even summarize the humanities of all of Asia throughout history or the impact it has had on the modern world today. However, I would encourage you to do further research for any particular country or subject that piques your interest.